Welcome everyone to Black Web Fest. This panel is called Funds and Games, Opportunities in the Gaming Industry. I'll be your moderator. My name is Monique Henry-Hudson, and we are going to get right into things. I'm going to ask each of my panelists just to introduce yourselves and only say a little bit, not too much, because we're going to get into everything as we go on. So I'm going to start with Khalil, please.
Sure. I am Khalil. I am co-founder of Decoy Games and lead developer of SwimSanity.
And name's Ahmed, Abdullah, the other brother of Khalil and co-founder of Decoy Games, also creator of SwimSanity.
All right. Hi, I'm Kenyeda Adams. I'm from Black Girl Gamers, and I am one of the Discord moderators within the organization.
So, Kenyeda, can you tell us a little bit, like, what was the first game you ever played and why is it so near and dear to you?
The first game that I actually played was Frogger on the N64 a long time ago. Actually, I think it might have been one of the first Nintendos, not the 64. It was still pixels. But I just remember having so much fun playing the game, and some of my favorite games from my childhood were on the Nintendo and the PlayStation 1. The first game I ever completed was Croc, though. That was on the PlayStation when the PlayStation first came out. It's still one of my favorites to this day. I'm kind of hoping that they remaster that one too at some point. But I just loved games and the ability to play them and nice escapes. And then as games, became more sophisticated, it just was really nice to be able to engage in these stories, be part of them in a way.
Croc, that's an amazing shout out right there.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember we got that game too. It was one of our first purchases for PlayStation. That's a good one. Yeah, they need to bring that franchise back.
Well, your turn. What was the first video game you played?
First game I played, it was original Super Mario on Nintendo, and that was. I probably wasn't even playing because I probably had like the controller unplugged while Khalil was actually playing,
Correct.
type of thing.
This is
correct. That's the picture evidence we have of us playing together. But that is the first memory I have of games. But I mean, I love every system from that point out. Just a big time gamer.
Yeah, OG Mario for me as well for the original NES.
So this question, I mean, everyone's going to answer. So whoever wants to go first. But how has gaming changed your life?
Yeah, I'll go first. Gaming's just been not only just an outlet for myself to just whether it's kind of time of the day to just take a break or even connect with people that aren't local, but also want to just keep my mind going. I like playing games more like watching TV because it just allows my mind to keep thinking and interact with things. So just in that personal aspect, but I mean, I'm full-time game developer, so I have to. It's always been the passion. So it's really been able to find something that I can work and do that also feels like a personal hobby. So it's really changed the trajectory of what I do every day.
Yeah, I think just to like piggyback off that, like gaming essentially opened up a career for me and kind of inspired me to even start down the career path that I was in. I probably would not have even gotten to computer science if it wasn't for video games, because that was the only reason I really started like studying development and stuff, because I aspired to be a game developer. But even beyond that, I mean, game development's opened us the doors for us to start our own studio, and I've met so many people across so many different like industries because of video gaming. And even in my own personal life, video gaming takes up like 2/3 of my day, since it is my career, it is my hobby, and it's pretty cool.
Gaming for me, at first, playing games was very much a pastime, a hobby, something that I was very, entertained with and interested in. As I got older, I became more interested in games as a form of storytelling medium, and how games with stories and mythos tied to them and how they interact with, people's, discussions, opinions, and how fandoms grew over time from around them. Lately, socially for me, games were a gateway into fandoms and meeting other people. That's how I got involved with Black Girl Gamers and seeing how our entertainment could also be a force for societal commentary, change, and connection. Especially now that the internet has come along and you've got people connecting through Discord and through Twitter. And, most of my friends, live nowhere near me. They're spread out all over the world, all over the country. And so it's definitely opened up things for me socially, as well as things for me intellectually, as well as just for fun or new ways of being creative, depending on the games you play.
So I got back into gaming last year, as I think a lot of people did, with just having to be home all the time. And what I really appreciated is, like you're saying, Kenyeda, with the internet, just having so many social group and communities. Like I learned about Black Girl Gamers last year, and it took a while, but I applied for the Facebook group, and like I'm in the Discord, and it's nice to see a community for me of Black women that play games, because that's something I didn't even realize was missing part of it. And to have other girls for me that are so into Sims, because that's like my number one game. So it's been nice to just like see people or feel like that sense of community there. I want to ask Khalil and Ahmed, because you guys are game developers, how did you even start getting into that?
So we started game development. So we just like before we even started developing, we both went to the same college, which was UMass Amherst. And we literally studied computer science because at that time, like indie development wasn't really a big thing. So it wasn't really known how to become a game developer. And we didn't have any access to like game design schools or anything like that. So we just figured, hey, let's study computer science and see where this takes us. And unfortunately, towards the end of our senior year, we didn't have, we didn't take any game development courses. So we didn't even know if we were like on the right track. Luckily, like literally in my last semester, I found like this random class up on like the top floor of like one of the highest buildings at UMass. Like I think there's only like 10 people in the class, but it was a Flash development class. And that's where I developed the first version of some Sanity. And that really kicked off my passion for actual game development. And Ahmed followed along pretty close behind that when he reached the same class. And after we graduated, Ahmed just kind of was like, let's see how far we can take this. And Microsoft XNA, which was like a freeware program, was available around that time. And we started making a prototype for some Sanity on Microsoft XNA. And honestly, from there, just like year after year, we just kept building on our skills. And, fast forward 10 or so years today, we're pretty excited to have, released the first version of that game.
Do you have anything to add to that?
I mean, Khalil likes to cover it, that's what it's the same thing. I mean, it's great to be able to go through it together. And it allowed for us to bounce all the ideas and push each other, because it's not an easy business, especially to get started in, but it was great to be able to do it as a family, and then also do it hopefully at a level people appreciate.
Sure.
Okay, so also with a lot of the classic games, and we're definitely seeing it with more modern games, the stories, are a big reason why the games are so popular. So everyone can just share their 2, 3, 4, 5 cents on why storytelling is so important to the gaming development as well.
I think storytelling is a huge part of stories now, because games are in its own way a form of art. And of course, art comes with a meaning they're meant to be engaged with, and writing is a lot of the same way. But I think at the same time, now that we have a lot of new technology that can do a lot of new things, a lot of the ways to reuse, game mechanics and other things that we kind of have a good grasp on now, the best way to make them unique from one another is the story that you're telling with them. If you, for example, there's Going Under. It's a dungeon crawler game, but you're dungeon crawling through an office space of a startup company, beating up monsters with keyboards and computer screens and things. So it's still a dungeon crawler, still the same. You got a hero, they need to get through the dungeon, run, go, but the story, is a tongue-in-cheek story about a startup company that's, going under. You've got things like Skyrim and all the franchises, Deus Ex, you got God of War, you've got all these games with such rich mythologies, people and places that people latch onto and identify with. You got Zero Horizon Dawn, Plague of Innocence, and some of the other games that are coming out now, like Kenyeda and the Spirits. And so the stories they tell can connect with the gamers and help the gamers see themselves in the characters that they're playing. Versus say how first person shooters are designed. There still could be a story in there, but it may be just the perspective that's allowing them to engage with it as well. Because like my brother fell in love with the Call of Duty games, my younger brother, and one of the things that drew him in wasn't the shooting, it was the going through the Civil War stories, going through, the World War II stories, the World War One stories, of these soldiers that were in those positions. He was more interested in that than the shooting. So, I mean, it really just depends on how you are as a gamer, but I think storytelling is integral because it allows for exploration of certain themes and ideas. There are many games that explore gender identity, emotional communication, mental illnesses, like with Psychonauts. You know, Life is Strange came out with True Colors, and that's focused on an empath. So you've got all these different mechanics that you can use to play with and talk about themes and ideas that a book can't cover, or sitting passively in a movie might not reach you in the same way. So I do think storytelling is very important to games. I actually am trying to get into game writing. So
Yeah, I think that now, like back when we first started playing games, like because of the advancement of technology now, back then you had basically we weren't as developers able to tell stories. We kind of had to kind of leave it up to the developer, to the gamer's imagination for the most part. We'd probably write the story in the back of like a black and white manual, but now developers actually have the ability to tell a story because games more or less are just interactive movies at this point. And gamers expect to have characters and a plot that they can attach to, whether it's something silly or whether it's something like very deep. And that makes up half of the gameplay experience sometimes, which is just as important of the actual gameplay mechanics. So a gameplay story and its lore can really carry it far.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with both of their perspectives. It's like storytelling is just as important as development, and we always try to tell people, a developer is not just a coder. I call everyone a developer that was a part of that process. The narrative designers are a position that allow people to take narrative and actually input it into a game. And especially the biggest games out there, talk about Call of Duty, Far Cry 6 with Giancarlo Esposito being the main character in the game. They asked him, what was it like playing a character in the game? He said, honestly, very similar to what it was like in the movies, because it's the same type of production. Go through the credits of those big games, you're going to see them very similar to like in film. So as Cole said, with the technology that's out there and the storytelling, it's really important. And it's the same amount of importance that you think you're getting in film. And it's just another avenue of telling those. So I think it's really intrinsical to it working.
Khalil, I'd like you to elaborate. You mentioned that developers couldn't really integrate much of the story before because of technology. And what do you really mean by that? What's been the evolution in the technology that allows you to do that now?
Yeah, I mean, like when we started playing games, like I said, we started like the NES era. So you could even take something like Mario back in the day, right? You have this character who's just kind of jumping across the screen, bouncing on mushrooms, and he turns into like a fireball. That's all we had to really go off of. We knew he was trying to save the princess for some reason, and I didn't even know Bowser's name until like N64 around that time. And it just goes to show, now you play a game like Mario Odyssey, and there's like a whole story to it. Like, exactly what Mario's doing. He's following this cap guy. He needs to like whatever the story is around that. He has to like restore the world with Cappy and stuff. And it's just completely different. And there's still a lot to be left to the imagination, because that's what good storytelling does. But it allows the developers now to, like I said, project a story onto the gamers, and it just allows for this whole different world of immersion. And I think that's an awesome kind of transformation that gaming took, along with the technology, where it kind of allowed for this additional narrative.
No, it's great to add on that. I think the game technology moving forward not only allows for better storytelling in games, but also storytelling in movies.
Yeah.
The Mandalorian season, they use the Unreal Engine to actually film a lot of the sets that are there. So I think filmmakers are finding that game technology is another asset to actually have them tell their stories even better. So it's just there's so much just overlap in both the industries. It really is great to see them, utilize each other and see how they can push it forward.
For sure.
Yeah, I work in the animation industry on feature productions, and I was on a project that was definitely using Unreal also to do their previs. So it was just, making up mock sets or whatever that we would use, and we get real time. We can throw in a couple lights, and we don't need to go through the expensive process of actually like rendering a full complete model build. So I think that was very exciting for me. The project has been put on hold. I hope it could come back because I want to see how Unreal and like gaming stuff really starts getting integrated with animated films and shows as well. So it's exciting. The next question I have, I'm laughing a little bit, but it's something that I've been thinking about a lot. What also came out of the pandemic for me with getting back into Sims after like X amount of years was I joined Twitch and started streaming because I was like, well, what else, can I do? And I took a break. And during this break, there has been like a surgence of, you can say, bots and like hate raids and all sorts of stuff like that, to the point where like it makes me very anxious to return back to Twitch.
Mm-hmm.
I am like, maybe I'm gonna go to YouTube where it's like safer, because I'm such like a newbie with streaming that I don't even know and understand how to set up stuff that could help. Like I don't have mods or anything like that. And I just want all of you to share your perspectives on like that whole like hate raider thing. What should maybe platforms be doing to better support people of marginalized communities? And like how, I mean, it's not really on us to make it the safer space. Sometimes I feel a way that people always ask the marginalized group, like, what can they do? What is not their responsibility, But what do you guys have to say or thoughts about just like that kind of activity on these platforms that are supposed to be supporting all gamers?
That is also a question I've been having a lot lately because I work as the one of the Discord moderators for Black Girl Gamers. So I'm watching our community Discord. I'm interacting with the people on that Discord, and a lot of people on that platform are streamers. For a couple of weeks, we had our troll alert channel, pinging constantly, block this spot, do this, do this, do this. And I was a new streamer too. I think I wrote in my email, I'm like, yeah, I'm new to streaming. I was streaming for a bit and then, things happened and I kind of got behind. And the only thing at the time that I was streaming was my D&D game weeklies. It was just kind of a shorthand way for me to record it. But it was just also fun to see who stopped by to see what was going on. And I was like, I'm not comfortable streaming it. I've been recording the last couple of sessions on my computer, but I haven't been streaming because it's a stressful thing to think about, especially as a new, smaller streamer. And I think part of the reason it's hard to get implementation of proper controls for this is because they want to cast the biggest net they can in terms of viewership, but they also don't want to alienate those they may feel like are their bigger audiences. So it makes things a little difficult, not to mention technology turns over very quickly. I know recently Twitter put out that they have the verified email and the verified phone number chat. So that will help to cut down on bots being able to get in. But keeping up with the changes in the bots and how quickly those micros can be changed or altered, is still a very hard thing. And the gaming industry as a whole is very it's a difficult space to navigate if you're part of a marginalized community. There's really no easy way to talk around that. There's a different set of hurdles you kind of have to, overcome to do your work in them. And it it's really frustrating because people constantly, having to knock on Twitch's door going, hey, what are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about this? What are you going to do about this? And so it comes down to, do you really want to, it people, I think, have to determine at the end of the day how they want to appeal to their demographics, And so at some point, I think they have to realize that either they find some way to at least make the overall space somewhere where everybody can utilize the space, or they're going to have to contend with the fact that they're going to be known as a space that's not. Because I think for a lot of services, especially platforms, they are very, very finicky about public image. So they definitely don't want to have a negative one, but at the same time, that means kind of having conversations that are a little uncomfortable. And people don't like being uncomfortable, but I think in the long run, if they want to continue to grow their platform and continue to maintain it, they're going to have to confront that sooner, or later. In terms of being safer, I mean, in terms of Twitch, the other thing you can do is utilize the tools and the tools that other people are making, because the creators themselves have been working workarounds and bots and things of their own to clear out their chats. But they're also very right in calling for, I should not have to be taking time out of my streaming schedule, my production schedule, to make something, to fix a problem that you can't for some reason handle at this point in time. And I think part of what's going to drive that is competition, because for a long time Twitch was the major gaming streaming service, but now YouTube, it's live streaming service. You've got I believe it's Love It as well. It's a smaller one, but it's newer. I know there's several women in Black Girl Gamers that were brought onto that platform and they love it. You've got your own hosting sites. So as more competition comes in, that's going to be something that's definitely going to change up the landscape. When people have options like YouTube isn't great, but they have tighter moderation controls. Love It's small, but the community is kind of handpicked. You have to go through a vetting process. It might be safer, versus Twitch is, I'm starting out, I'm trying to build an audience. Is it worth the risk of trying to navigate that rather than having to deal with, say, YouTube or getting into Love It? And plus, we're building our own communities as well, like NOR, Black Girl Gamers, and Sega, and all of the, like, we're all building our own communities and teaching each other and things like that. But I think in the end, it's going to take competition for marginalized communities to be taken seriously as demographics, until they see, that their inactions are causing them to lose potential brands, ambassadors, and things like that. Because with social media, organizations are a lot more exposed, so they're having to be very careful about how they manage their image. For example, the whole glam cosmetics thing that blew a couple of months back because it was of the bad handling. So it was Elf Comics. Apologies, it was Elf Comics Cosmetics. But yeah, the whole thing blew up. So I think it's going to be the pressure of competition and communities just finally putting their foot down on certain things that are, dragging their feet on. But like I said, Twitch did come out with their phone and their email verifications, but it's just going to be I think it's going to just be a long process and battle for those.
Yeah, I think to add, it's I mean, the tech is definitely, it's a band-aid that we know that's going to peel off at some point, right? You can only control so much of the raids. But I'd answer the same way I'd answer any type of hate and racism that goes along in this country and in the world. And this is why, Black Girl Gamers is really one of the most important platforms that are out there that we need to support. Because the goal is to really normalize our presence, right? So the only thing that's really going to fix it, if we start really normalizing the fact that we have Black Girl Gamers that are streaming, we have Black people streaming, we have women streaming, we have these things, because at this point, you're going to find more like racism in places where we're just not at that often. People feel more compelled and empowered to say something, to go back, because no one's really showed them that that's not the right thing to do. So really, they said Twitch needs to just really look at the reality that their community definitely has not been used to this, but they need to fight for us to make sure there's more of a platform for us to have on there to normalize our presence. Because at some point it will change. Just how racism and stuff has changed over the years while it's still there, but the places that we improved on are areas where we'd be able to have our presence more known, and Twitch needs to be able to do that. And it's kind of the reason why, even for myself, I was a little, I was disappointed when things like Mixer went down, because, and I feel like Microsoft might be looking at that and thinking, okay, maybe we should have stuck down for a while more, because this is an opportunity, right? As you said with the competition, I think the people with Mixer, at the very least, from what I heard, they're like, honestly, community is actually pretty nice in general. While they might not have the numbers, I think right now people are looking for places where it's like, I'd rather have a nicer community than to have all these numbers where I'm getting attacked all the time. So it's definitely the competition that would help, but they need to address it by making sure that people, like the people on this call, have the platform. And we need to also make sure we're supporting that as well, because that's really the only way that's this going to start to go away. But we know, as in our lives, that this is stuff we face all the time. This is a digital version of it. But I think the best way to combat it is to unify and just kind of grow our platforms together.
Yeah, and let's just be real. The responsibility falls on the services themselves. So Twitch, they need to have dedicated teams to fight against, these, whether it's bots or individuals that are sending, hate message or making toxic communities. And, they have to make, I think Kenyeda said it's a tough decision, or uncomfortable, I think that was the word she used. It is uncomfortable, but it's more uncomfortable being on the side that we're on. So I don't think that's an excuse for them not to address the problem. And if that means that there's a much harsher rules for people to be banned once they are caught, people need to feel that there's actual repercussions, when they are creating a toxic environment. And if you have these, warning 1, warning 2, warning 3, and, ways to get around the protocol, if they really wanted to get rid of these people, they would. So let's just keep it real. The responsibility is on them, and they are more than capable in investing in teams to, counteract those kind of acts, and investing in actual solutions. They have the capability. So the responsibility is on them. And if they can't live up to their responsibility, I think the responsibility is on us to find other places to, host our talents. Yeah,
it's true. Because they say they trying to arrest 2 people or whatever lately or something.
2 of hundreds.
Yeah, and it's okay, those people were around doing it for years, so why now? No, now that there's outrage and publicity, so they can definitely do something about it and probably can go further, but they just haven't spent the resources.
Trust me, when these companies want to invest in something and build something or create something, they do it. So if they wanted to invest in these issues, they would do it. I think their investment speaks a lot for where their focus is.
That's true. And I just want to clarify, you said they're trying to arrest people?
No, I think there was an article where there was 2 people that were responsible. They said responsible for many hate raids. And it just the fact that just came up that they were able to find, a couple people responsible. It's okay, but they
press charges. We don't know then. They said they were actually considering charges. They hadn't actually charged them with anything.
They
were considering charges.
Right. So even worse.
See, stuff like that shows that they're not really strong about it, but they tend to care a lot more about their brand, right? Say, hey, we were considering charges, and hope that it kind of goes away. But it's their responsibility to really follow through on these kind of things.
Yeah, they need to make some examples out of people.
100%.
Well, just to pick the mood up a little bit, then, can you all name any creators or influencers that are in the gaming space and inspire you, and why they are inspiring to you?
Yeah, I think my favorite, honestly, right now is probably Hip Hop Gamer, New York based, kind of streamer, influencer, pretty much does a lot, reporter, does a lot of things within the game industry. And it's not only for his like gaming and reporting skills, which are top notch. He does a lot in the community. He does a lot to kind of introduce or just show how Black culture is involved in gaming, but also make it sort of accessible to everyone. And he's also just outside of his craft, is a very helpful individual in general. So big shouts to Hip Hop Gamer. That'd probably be one individual that comes to mind for me.
Yeah, I actually love the whole Black Girl Gamers like group. I didn't even know they were gonna be on the call. I mean, we're a huge fan of them, and I support everything.
Glad to hear.
That's like you guys are amazing.
We come across your guys' members.
If I was to make an individual shout out, I'd have to shout out Black Hokage. He's an OG in the streaming area. I know he just signed with Excess, so congrats to him. We had an event called Black Game On where we were focused on like Black excellence, and he was kind enough to kind of join our panel there. So I was happy to see him starting to get like even more kind of recognition from like bigger brands, because I just feel he's been doing it for a while. He's been doing things for a while. So shout out to Black Hokage.
For me, there's a couple of them that I really do admire. Jayan Lopez is one founder of Black Girl Gamers. She's always so professional, always willing to reach out and help, and reaching out to the communities and going, hey, have you made your press kits? Have you done this? Have like really helping people to like that want to like grow their online brand and where they want to go. She's really reaching out and going, hey, have you done this? She's put together a bunch of workshops. She's got talent emails that go out all the time with opportunities and things like that. And so I want to kind of be that level of organized and boss at some point. Another is Cuddlecore. Cuddlecore is a professional Tekken player whom is she's the sweetest, but she is not about the nonsense. She will shut down a troll in her streams in a heartbeat, but she's a really talented player. She's super sweet, always down to teach, to help. She's never belittling. I always appreciate that about her. And then of course, X Mira Mira and the NOR network that she put together, that's going to be a force as well at some point. But Mira, she's always very upfront, but she's had a really, her along with Ebonics, and like they've had a really big impact, at least in the last year or so, of how games are seen, not just in the esports realm, because ESPN has that on lock, but like in terms of just games outside of the competitive realm, in terms of representation, how they, really spearheaded the campaign to get the skin tones, the sims to be more accurate, their CC work, their community work, their teaching work. She's done a lot of that and is still doing it, still steady busy all the time. And so those are the people that I pull most of my influence and, attitudes, and hopefully going forward advocacy in this space from.
It's beautiful. I definitely took some notes on my phone of what y'all were saying. What advice would you give to someone trying to build their career, whether they're like entry level or maybe making like a career pivot or something like that?
Yeah, I think start right away. I think sometimes people wait. We get that question a lot in game development, and they feel they need to wait till a certain time period. For us, we're self-taught. And at the time where we were teaching ourselves, there wasn't a lot of information online. We had to kind of graduate from YouTube University as well. But now there's so much. I mean, Unity Game Engine has a whole tutorial. You can download it for free. And jump right into game development. There's visual scripting now, so you don't even need a code. You can jump into projects and edit them. So there's a lot of ways to get into it. And not only that, there's amazing games out there that are basically creative games themselves. So you got like Mario Maker to, I think, that Garage game on Nintendo that's basically a development like studio. So I mean, even as simple as Minecraft, Roblox, it's just being creative, so you get your game design gears going, and that really will help you on a path to just getting towards game development.
Yeah, that was actually going to be my answer, would be to start now. But I mean, I'll just add to it that like I think when we're saying start now, do we mean like literally be like, hey, I'm going to quit my job and, you know, completely abandon life? No, that's not what we're saying. But you can start now on like the little things, whether it be like planning, whether it be like research. Like I said, there's so many resources out there today. Whether it be networking, there's so many creators, and obviously we come from a development background, but this really is about anything that you're into. So whether you're a game developer, a streamer, artist, whatever it is, there are people out there willing to help on a lot of different levels. So, you know, reach out to people, send out an email. You know, an ignore email has never killed anybody. So send out emails, ask questions, learn, start learning today, and you'll be surprised how far your own self-learning can take you.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely echo the, start somewhere, start small. In terms of I know they were talking from the game development aspect, but networking is key
Yep.
for a lot of people. One of the big hindrances sometimes for people who are into games or want to get into the industry, we have a tendency to be a bit introverted, a bit, and so going out, you're talking about networking. You want me to talk to people?
Yeah.
Do I really have to? Yeah, you have to talk to people, even if you have to sit at your computer and stare at your computer before you send that DM on Twitter.
Yeah.
You've got to start the dialogue. You've got to start talking to people. And if talking to people is really hard, just start on Twitter, start on YouTube or wherever you're at. Follow people that are into what you're into, what you're looking to get into, what you're looking to do. A lot of them share their processes, especially given fandoms are very about sharing information and sharing ideas and talking about the things they love. Follow them, find that artist, find that person that, wrote, that guide or that, thing, and follow them, see what their processes are, look at their work. So even if you haven't started, you are getting some idea of what you're getting into. One of the people I follow on my Twitter used to be a writer for Wizards of the Coast. So D&D and all those things. And like, she talks about writing and other things on her Twitter all the time. But again, there's somebody who's been in the industry and did the work. So they, you can ask them, you can talk to them and ask them questions about what they're doing. On my end, I kind of fell into social media management and community management by accident, mainly because I had gotten involved on social media through some other fandom related events and, running social medias for them, running discords for them, organizing events. I've organized several fandom events, writers and creators, and artists. So I just got in by just, participating at first. And then when it was something I found that I liked, I started going, hey, how can I help out? How can I make this easier on you? And so I started learning things on my own. When it comes to, I know they're for the game development end, I mean, getting in and getting your feet wet is definitely top priority. But if you want to get into some of those auxiliary things like the animation or the writing or just simply community management, community building, it's going to take networking with people, seeing how games run their social medias, how do they run them, how do they brand them, how do they do all those things, and then do that yourself, whether it's helping to put together a small tournament for a game you like to play, or helping to put together some type of creative event, like say a writing bang or something like that, where you've got people, writing stories and making art, about a game, because those do happen. Kingdom Hearts has them all the time. So there's ways that you can kind of get involved in ways that will be a little easier for you to work with, but you'll start to see how those industries run and what things look like, and you can pick up skills from that as well. But and then sometimes you have to do a little digging. Like game writing is a thing I want to get into. Sometimes digging for, okay, how do you get into the gaming industry, writing for the gaming industry, it's a little harder because it's like you look through posts, you look through examples, but it's like, well, when am I going to get a chance to, write a game narrative? What does that look like? You kind of have to dig to find those pieces. But again, networking helps because then you can talk to people. They're like, yeah, I started here, for example, using like what is it, like Fungus or Python NY, which is a visual novel editor that's free to use. Um, and other things like that. It's got another name. It's Twine. There we go. Twine, for making like small choose your own adventure games. You can add animations and things to them if you want, but it's more focused on the writing, and you can at least put together a kind of guided path, game narrative together that you can at least show somebody, if that's what you're looking to do. As for animations and things like that, there's so many animators of color and artists of color who are all chatting all the time. I follow plenty just through following fandoms and things like that. So you can, it's just, I think the biggest thing is you just have to get out there, get your feet wet. It's scary, I know, but you have to start somewhere and you can kind of go along from there. But my main advice would be do your research and just, network, and then do the work because eventually people are going to start coming to you.
Okay, I want to also just let our audience know, anyone who's watching, that we're coming down to the end soon enough. So if you do have any questions that you want me to ask the panelists, please put them in the chat and we'll do that. So we've talked about the Black Girl Gamers and the Noir Network a bunch, but are there any other communities that, Black people in gaming or gamers of color, any other marginalized groups should look out for, if they're on Facebook, if they exist on Discord, just any other kind of spaces like that?
Yeah, for sure. I definitely like to shout out my best friend. She runs Coexist Gaming. It's a 360 lifestyle brand of gaming, and there's physical game houses out in New York. I know they're trying to expand across the country, but a Black woman runs the whole thing. She's awesome. It's they run it's really being able to intertwine like not just esports, but also just people, if you're into music, because she's a Grammy nominated artist, into just the everyday lifestyle, to go to a space that feels inclusive and everyone's involved. So I highly recommend checking out Coexist Gaming on Instagram and on coexistgaming.com.
Yeah, I came across them on Instagram and like I was so ready to go, and then the pandemic hit and I was like, oh yes. My gosh.
Yeah, you have to, they're still open. They have like a game house and a fun house, and they're gonna open their first commercial space hopefully within the next couple quarters. But
oh yeah, I definitely have to check them out. But yeah, sorry, if anybody else has any other.
Yeah, I'd probably shout. Oh, go ahead, Kenyeda.
Oh, I was gonna say there is Black Twitch UK. There is a NNE Saga as well. They have a community going. I know there's a girls game too on TikTok that I recently found. There's also Brown Girls Code is another good community. And there's another one off the top of my head. There is a Blackson gaming community, but it's kind of spread out. Those are the ones I know of off the top, and Latinx gaming as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think one community that worked well for us was Playcrafting. It's a very diverse community. Gave us helped us out with a lot of opportunities. They're really in touch with kind of connecting smaller developers and smaller studios to kind of the real professional industry, especially if you're trying to get your game out there. And they host a lot of really great events to connect you with gamers. So that's just one that I would recommend as a developer in general.
And now on the financial aspect, are you guys aware of any grants or any sort of, I don't know if it's accelerator programs or anything like that for people who are, trying to be a part of still the gaming industry, need that kind of support?
Yeah, I can name a couple. Humble Bundle Games has a Black developer fund. I actually know Justin Woodward. He kind of runs the Mix and Guerrilla Collective. He's an awesome dude. He's running that all up. So if you're looking for kind of a push to jump into your game development, that would be one I'd look towards. I'd also say, I know Riot Games also has a fund. They're looking to invest in small Black studios. So we've actually had conversation with them too. They're a great group of guys over there. That's to name a few, but I know there's some more out there, but those would be ones that I either interact with the people personally, and they're actually a great bunch.
Okay, so before we wrap up, are there any projects or things that you guys are working on that you're able to share?
Yeah, Grand Theft Auto 6 is one thing that we're working on. No, I'm kidding. Yeah, we can just say that we're working on we are still working on projects. We actually have some cool up and coming projects, and we can just guarantee some pretty cool stuff coming from Decoy Games in the near future. So.
Yeah, that's all we can say. We can't say any more details, but no, it's exciting.
That's all I'm allowed to say right now.
Yeah, but it's good stuff. I can't wait to really show you guys what we have.
Yeah.
And Kenyeda, is there any sort of things we should look out for from Black Girl Gamers in the near future?
Well, we're currently in the process of getting some more things together. I know there's been some talks about when our next events and such are going to be. We're currently working on some things with. We're currently working on a few things with Facebook, and we've got new content and social media managers, so they're already hard at work putting out more content. So keep an eye on our Twitter page. We've already caused a bit of a stir because we started the trending by accident because we were there was a joke post about which gaming company needed to go, and it was like Rockstar, Bethesda, and Capcom, I think, and Riot Games, and it ended up causing Bethesda to trend for a while on Twitter. So there's a lot of fun going on over there. So there's a lot going on there. And we're in the process of planning some more events in the next couple of months going into 2022. So it should be fun.
Cool. So, I mean, that's the end of the panel. Can everyone just share maybe social media, websites for all your different kind of endeavors that you guys have going on?
Yeah. You can follow us on at Decoy Games on Twitter and Facebook, at Decoy Games _official on Instagram. And if you guys ever have any questions or have some cool stuff that you want to share, definitely do not hesitate to reach out.
For me, for Black Girl Gamers, you can find Black Girl Gamers at Black Gamers on Twitter. You can find us on Facebook, also at Black Girl Gamers on Instagram. And for me personally, I'm pretty much Wolfkeeper989 everywhere. So you are more than welcome to follow me, say hi, whatever.
Thank you all. And again, this was the Funds and Games Opportunities in Gaming Industry panel. Enjoy the rest of the day and the weekend here at Black Web Fest. And thank you guys for taking the time out today. And I hope to see you around the interwebs.
Of course. Thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me.